The United States is currently being rocked by one of the most divisive election cycles in the nation's history. The election follows years of increasingly deep lines being carved between political parties, differences that have resulted in political deadlocks, exploitative political maneuvers, and a heightened level of vitriol in the United States political discourse. However, while the divide between parties has grown deeper than ever, there's one organization that's working to reach across party lines for its vision of the greater good: the Chamber of Digital Commerce. The Chamber of Digital Commerce describes itself as the world's leading trade association representing the digital asset and blockchain industry. The nonprofit association's goal is, quote, to develop an environment that fosters innovation, jobs, and investment in the digital currency sector through education, advocacy, and working closely with policymakers, regulatory agencies, and industry leaders. Recently, finance magnates sat down with Perianne, the founder and president of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, to speak about the Chamber's goals as the election cycle draws to its close. I'm Rachel McIntosh, and this is FMTV.
First of all, Perianne, I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm a big fan of your work. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. And it's great to be here with you today. My name's Perianne. I'm the founder and president of the Chamber of Digital Commerce. We established the Chamber just over 6 years ago. We launched in July of 2014. And so we've had the opportunity to work with the policy community for a number of years on the issues impacting the growth of the digital asset and blockchain technology ecosystem. So my background and my passion has always been in finance and economic policy. And I've lived and worked in Washington, D.C. my entire career. And I learned about Bitcoin in early days through my work on Capitol Hill, advising members of Congress on economic policy. And when I first discovered this virtual currency that was very, very different to anything I had ever seen before with fiat money. So having a system out there that's not established or controlled or run by a government or a group of people or a corporation, just that idea to me was very interesting as somebody working in economic policy. And so I became very excited about what the promise of blockchain technology could be, and saw pretty early that this ecosystem was going to face a number of regulatory challenges and considerations. So we established the Chamber to be a dedicated resource to the blockchain industry to ensure that our policymakers have access to information, accurate and high quality and high integrity information about what this technology is, so that policymakers can make decisions out of a place of information as opposed to the fear of the unknown, which we still have some challenges with that, but that was certainly the case in the earliest days of the crypto ecosystem. So we're really excited about the future of this industry, and we want to make sure that our policymakers are just as excited about it as we are.
Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty amazing that all the way back in 2014, you were thinking about cryptocurrency in sort of regulatory and policy terms. That was back in the day when Bitcoin was just magic internet money.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it still is magic internet money to many. 2013 was really a big year for Bitcoin. That was the year that Bitcoin started the year at, I don't know, maybe $100 a Bitcoin, and it went all the way up to $1,300. So you had this big bull market, and there was also a number of things that happened in the industry. You had Cyprus went through their bailouts, and there was international news of Cypriots and people in Cyprus buying Bitcoin because of the economic certainty at that time as they were going through a bailout with the European Union. So that was a really interesting moment for Bitcoin. And then we had some not so great things happen as well. You had Silk Road and the Mt. Gox exchange collapse, and that really caused a big black eye. And many people's first impression of Bitcoin was what they were reading in the news, which was criminals were using it to buy illegal things online. And that left a very tainted reputation that we're still recovering from today. And that also led to a lot of regulators ramping up their activities to start trying to mitigate against criminals using this technology. And so because of that, there's really been a lack of balance in the conversation about blockchain across most policymakers, where we're afraid of it because we've seen it's been used for criminal uses, but we don't understand it enough to really understand how its benefits can be used in a positive way, and to make sure those benefits are realized, and not just trying to mitigate against the negative applications or illicit use cases. So that's really where our work was born out of, and it's evolved, rapidly over the past just over half a decade.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about the Chamber of Digital Commerce's mission today. So why is it so important at this moment in time that our elected officials in the United States need to understand that the United States, for example, technical preeminence is at risk?
Yeah, and our mission at the Chamber is to promote the acceptance and use of digital assets and blockchain-based technologies. And for the reasons I just kind of went through, where a lot of people, especially on Capitol Hill, a number of members of Congress, both House and Senate, because these are people who have to be experts in many different areas of policy across our entire economy, not a lot of them have a strong understanding of what blockchain technology is, what Bitcoin is, or what the other 3,000 cryptocurrencies that exist today, what their role is and what their purpose is and what their potential promise is. A lot of them, they're not close to the ecosystem, and many of them have the perception that this is just a digital currency that is used to facilitate illicit activity because that's what they've read on the news. Well, the truth is that this technology is a greater tool for law enforcement than it is for criminals, and that there is an amazing industry of innovators and technologists and engineers and business experts that are leveraging this technology to build something incredibly important. And there's many other nations that do understand that. They understand the role blockchain technology is going to play and the global digital economy for many generations to come, and they want to be leaders in developing this technology. And in the US, we're just afraid of what we don't understand. And so to me, and I think, to many other people and a number of the members that we represent, we think a lot is at risk if we're ceding this technology to other nations, and the US doesn't have the opportunity to benefit from that economic growth. If you look at what happened with the internet in the early 1990s, policymakers in Washington saw the potential for the internet, and for broadband and mobile technologies. And they've set policies to allow for innovation and competition that have developed the world that we live in today. Mm-hmm. Today, policymakers need to understand these emerging innovations in blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies and set policies that nurture these emerging technologies and that keep the United States in an innovation leadership position. And if we don't, I think everything is at stake.
Absolutely. I want to touch on something that you said a couple seconds ago, which is so interesting, that cryptocurrencies are potentially a greater tool for law enforcement than they are for criminals. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, every single transaction is logged in an immutable ledger called the blockchain, and law enforcement has the capabilities to track and trace transactions, and there's many different instances where they have apprehended criminals for using this technology for nefarious purposes. So the myth or the belief that this technology is really just used to facilitate criminal activity is completely false. And it's really surprising that there's so many people today that don't understand that. Of course, with this technology, because of the cryptography that it provides, you have a greater degree of privacy protections using this technology, but that does not mean that it's anonymous or it's the currency of choice for criminals. That is, truly just not accurate.
Right. So is that something that, for example, when you're interfacing and talking with these congressmen and women, is that a point that you bring up, and how do you also sort of address the one side of this, which is this is a tool that can be used for law enforcement with concerns that I'm sure citizens have about privacy and surveillance and that kind of thing. How do you have that discussion?
Well, for example, in our Crypto for Congress project, where our PAC gave a Bitcoin contribution to every single member of Congress's campaigns, one of the details of that is the Bitcoin that was provided was not just any Bitcoin. We mined that Bitcoin here in the United States, and the Bitcoin went straight from the miner to the chamber's PAC wallet, to the wallets provided to the members of Congress's campaign. And we were able to show them exactly where that cryptocurrency had come from, exactly where it's been, and who mined it. And that accomplished kind of 2 points here. One, we were able to show that there is a robust industry of companies that are providing these mining services here in the United States, and that are producing jobs and economic growth. And then two is that we understand where this cryptocurrency came from. And that was able to really get us ahead of anyone. One of the reasons why we wanted to do that is because we do know there are misconceptions out there about the anonymous nature of these technologies, or that they are used for illicit purposes. And we were able to provide information with 100% accuracy that is, one, it's not accurate, and two, it absolutely does not apply to the cryptocurrency that was provided in the Crypto for Congress campaign.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit more about Crypto for Congress? So this campaign donation was one aspect of it, but what is the project?
Yeah, Crypto for Congress is an educational initiative of the Chamber of Digital Commerce that seeks to provide our most senior government officials, members of Congress, regardless of party, with a hands-on experience with blockchain technology. And the purpose of Crypto for Congress is to raise awareness of and expand access to blockchain technology throughout the congressional community. And as a part of Crypto for Congress, the Chamber's PAC, our Political Action Committee, made a small contribution in Bitcoin, which is, as you know, the first and the largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization, to the campaign of every single member of Congress. The best way to learn something new is to experience it for yourself, especially when it comes to technologies. And we want our elected officials to experience the power of blockchain technology in their own hands. And our hope is that members will start to have a better understanding of the critical importance blockchain technology is going to play in the global economy for many years to come, by having the opportunity to use it for themselves and use it as an opportunity to learn something new.
Yeah, and can you speak a little bit about sort of the reaction that you got as a result of donating this small amount of Bitcoin? Did it cause any more conversation or any engagement? Have you seen that already happen, or is that something that you expect in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard from campaigns all across the country over the past week that are accepting Bitcoin for the first time. And of course, this is just, step one in their Bitcoin and blockchain journey, is receiving their first contribution. But I don't know about you, Rachel, but for me, the day that I had a friend who sent me Bitcoin because they thought I'd be interested in it, and receiving your first Bitcoin was definitely an impressionable moment for myself. And again, we wanted our policymakers to get to have that same opportunity where different light bulbs can go off in their brain by actually getting to see the technology at work. And as of last week, every single member now has a contribution in Bitcoin, and they have a simple but important question to consider: are they going to accept it or not? And again, we've heard from many campaigns that are accepting Bitcoin for the first time, and that is really exciting. And candidates that are accepting cryptocurrencies today are demonstrating their commitment to innovation and its impact on the economy, national security, and American leadership. And then for members who are not quite ready to accept cryptocurrencies today, that's okay. We understand it's a learning curve. We don't accept every single member to be ready to take that jump with us today. But what we're asking them to do is, instead of returning the Bitcoin to our PAC, we're asking them to donate it to charity. And there's many really just amazing nationally recognized nonprofits that accept Bitcoin today, like the American Cancer Society, Care USA, the American Red Cross, and United Way. and others. And we've given them a little step-by-step exercise that shows them how they can take that contribution and pass it on. And they still get the benefit of using the technology, and they get to support a charity. So we see this as, what do you have to lose kind of situation. But the whole point of this is to help people understand the technology better and to provide additional educational resources to our elected officials.
Yeah, and then there certainly has been an uptick in the number of candidates who have been accepting Bitcoin and other kinds of cryptocurrencies in their campaigns, notably in the US election cycle as well. I think definitely Andrew Yang was accepting Bitcoin at one point, and I can't remember if any of the other candidates were off the top of my head. But you spoke a little bit about this, but can you expand a little bit on what the implications of certain members of Congress accepting Bitcoin, not just from the Chamber of Digital Commerce, but also from just regular people who happen to have Bitcoin to their campaigns?
To us and to me, a member or a candidate that's accepting cryptocurrency today, what they are demonstrating is their commitment to this ecosystem and to innovation. And it's a small way that they can show that they believe these issues are important to our national security, our economic security, and American leadership on the global stage. So there's many other areas candidates can provide leadership, whether that's putting forward public policy proposals that help the growth of this ecosystem. But I think it's really interesting when you have a member who's actually accepting the cryptocurrencies, because it's just another way to demonstrate that you don't even, beyond understanding its importance, you're using it for yourself. And to me, that's walking the talk. And I think it will just be, a few years that this will be normal. You will see most members of Congress accepting cryptocurrencies. I think these payment processors are going to be integrated into the existing payment processors that campaigns use today, and they'll just have a simple button to push that says, yes, we're going to accept crypto, and it's going to be no different than a campaign accepting check, credit card, PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, now cryptocurrencies. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing this evolution happen, and it's absolutely going to apply to campaigns. And smart campaigns that understand that and get ahead of that, I think, have the opportunity to expand participation in the political process by communicating with a large section of the American people who currently are not being engaged in the political process.
Absolutely. And also, yeah, I want to ask you about your thoughts on the current election cycle. So you mentioned that the Chamber of Digital Commerce sent cryptocurrency to every member of Congress, everyone, regardless of their political party. Also, we're in the United States in an election year for the presidential election as well. So I'm curious what the Chamber of Digital Commerce's attitude is towards, the two candidates that are running for president right now and the future of cryptocurrency. Is that something that the Chamber of Digital Commerce is sort of taking into account? Like, do you hope that one candidate will get elected because they might be more likely to support cryptocurrency regulation, or what's your view on that?
Yeah, we do not endorse candidates at the Chamber of Digital Commerce, and to us it's incredibly important that all of our work is nonpartisan, meaning we're not picking sides. And when we engage with one member on one side of the aisle, we always make sure we're engaging with equal number of people on the other side of the aisle. This really should not be a partisan issue. In fact, last week we had Mick Mulvaney join us on our event Parallel, and that's exactly what he spoke to. He said, this is about technology, it's about innovation, and it's about jobs, which should not be a partisan issue. And we don't want it to become a partisan issue, because as soon as it does, it's going to make it that much harder to get anything accomplished. So it's the issues impacting the blockchain ecosystem and the growth of cryptocurrencies do not need to and should not cross partisan lines. And that's why with the Crypto for Congress project, we gave every single member, regardless of party, the exact same thing. We gave them the exact same contribution amount, and we also gave them access to the exact same amount of educational resources. And regardless of where you sit on whatever side of the aisle you're on. If you want to learn more about this technology, we're very excited to be able to have the opportunity to work with you to increase your understanding of this technology and also work through the challenges that impact the growth of this ecosystem.
Absolutely. So we just have a couple minutes here. So before we go, I want to ask a little bit about what the current focus of the Chamber of Digital Commerce is from this point to the end of this year and beyond. What's on the horizon for you guys?
So one of the key messages that we have today is helping people understand how important blockchain technology, how important this technology is and the role it's going to play in our future economy and financial system. Just steal a quote from Mark Andreessen, the co-founder of Netscape. He has said that blockchain is just as important as the internet itself. And if you just stop and think about that for a second, and just think about how much of an impact the internet has had on our economy, the way government functions, the way businesses functions, and our way of life. It has changed so much, and helping people understand blockchain is going to play a similar role is important. And there's, as I mentioned earlier, there's many other nations like China and Singapore and Japan and Switzerland and the European Union, they all understand this. And they are racing to have dominance in this space. And that's great. But the problem is that the United States does not understand. Largely, the US doesn't understand that today. And I would say, in many ways, we're not even acknowledging that there is this global space race happening towards blockchain technology, as well as other advanced technologies. And that it would be a significant challenge to the United States national security and economic security if we have foreign actors that are controlling the systems and the governance that's going to power the digital economy. And so one of our key messages has been the United States needs a national plan of action for how we're going to address blockchain technology. And the US has some disadvantages as well, because we have an incredibly large federal government with many different agencies that have jurisdiction over different areas of this ecosystem. And today there's very little coordination that's happening, at least in a formal capacity. In many instances, there's not a lot of balance to the conversation. We're very, very focused on enforcement. We've done very little to talk about how do we nurture this technology and make sure companies in the United States have what they need to be able to grow and develop this technology here. And having a national plan of action for blockchain, a national strategy to ensure America's leadership in this space, I think is important and is one of the key messages that we have at the Chamber for the United States today.
Absolutely. Perianne, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Rachel. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
For news, events, and podcasts like this one, visit financemagnates.com. Thanks so much to Perianne for coming on the show, and thank you for listening.